great, I would say, signs of a maturity, of when the seemingly separate spiritual personality is coming into one's own. And for a while on the path, it's really appropriate, really, to, there's efforting, there's often structures that are really very beneficial, different practices that are really very helpful. There requires, in, I would say, every instance, I mean, once in a while, you hear like, I don't know, 1 out of several million that just have a blasting open, and they're pretty much in their own, they stand in their own. But it's extraordinarily rare, and even in those particular circumstances, that then they often will find others that have made this recognition and receive benefit to move through certain unconscious conditionings. The Tibetans, and I really subscribe to that, say that it's actually quite impossible to have a full recognition, a very thorough, true recognition without the guidance of those that have walked before you. And I really subscribe to that. I simply have never seen it otherwise. Unless you come in, like Ananda Moyama or, Amachi or, some of the great avatars. But believe you me, it wasn't an easy path. But one of the signs is when love is, love is understood because if you sit long enough and you open your intent and your heart long enough, love is going to enter. And love that enters is not love that we are taught that is love, right? We're taught that the closest approximation that most of us have of love is, if we're lucky, it's through our parents. And many of us, that really wasn't a strong imprint because they themselves did not understand that. It wasn't that they were mad at you and it wasn't personal and, you really weren't the victim, even though it seems like perhaps you were. They just themselves did not know that. Did not know love. And so then you start looking for love and quote the other. And so then you start looking in relationship for love. And many of us became quite addicted to that because that was the closest approximation that we had. Right? That first bloom, and you can't think of anything or anybody, you're consumed, and the sexuality is like, you blow off into whatever, celestial realms. And, it's really cool, it's really groovy. It's probably one of the best experiences you can have in the human body. It's the closest approximation. Or if you're a mother or father and you give birth and the father participates in that birth, that also is a profound opening to love. It's that love that is the closest probably to unconditional, but it also is quite conditional, as we all know, in our own parenting and those that have parented us. It was not an unconditional love in most cases. But what I'm speaking of is love without an object. And in order for that really to begin to be born and to take place within you, there is a sense of the recognition of what actual love is. And like I said, if we sit long enough, love will start to enter. And love is really what I was attempting to describe yesterday as the vast space. Love is the actual movement, the dynamic movement of stillness. And it's this, it can't be divided out, though we attempt to. And it's beneficial when you're actually becoming aware of what real love is. Love, in its purest sense, is the fabric of all form. It's the background of all form. It's the very air that we're breathing. It's the very ground that we're walking on. It's the very creatrix and the substance that has created our Mother Earth and created our body and each cell within us. So to walk around, which all of us, I'm sure, have at one point or the other, and goes, where's the love? My mama and my daddy did not love me. You know, my husband, my children, my friends, no one loves me. Where's the love? I certainly have asked that. I don't know about you. And yet we're breathing it. We're actually made up of that. It's everything that we can see and perceive with our senses. That's love. And so that also becomes the joke. We were talking about the joke last night, that there's a certain point that you open your eyes to the reality, and it has always been here. Where would it go? It's the great cosmic joke. And it's the same with love. Love is just the creatrix, the dynamic aspect, the fabric, the substance, and the Divine Mother. And I don't mean the Divine Mother in some kind of a deity or goddess or any of that. That's all wonderful and interesting and helpful to bring this back into our collective consciousness. But the Divine Mother is the substance herself. She's the expression. And through time and culture, she's come in many ways and many forms. But the love without an object, it just starts to dawn that in actuality, you and everything else is made up of love. The air, you know, the blood, the oxygen, it's all love. And we often activate that in a conscious and personal way by loving another. And so that's why so many traditions teach to be of service to others, right? Because that sort of turns it on, it kind of activates it. Or if you're a parent, or if you're, you know, a lover or a husband or a wife, or, you know, in some kind of a relationship, that those others are at least as important, at least for a little while. Take it true. As your own. And then the second phase of love begins, which is the liberation of everything that it's not. And of course, that's what it will do. It will bring forward everything that it's not in relationship. And that's the dance. That's the dance of love. Or at least the liberation of love. But love without an object, that impersonal quality, that it does not include or exclude. It's everything. There's nothing that it's not. And that to love, even though this person is just really groovy and the answer to all of your prayers and everything else, right? You do have qualifications. I love that about you, but I do not love that about you. And of course you're reflecting something inside of you that you don't love. And you're laying that out because it's too painful. Right? It's a projection. It's like, you've got this wound and someone is coming up and they're like digging in it. You're going to go, right? You're going to push everyone out. That's just sort of how that is lined up. But love without an object is just the natural arising that not only is perceptible within the body energetic system, and it's very perceptible. It's just like tuning into it. And the other is, and I thought Jody did a beautiful job when she just kept talking about, and she was talking about the more of the celestial or the divine energies and the earth energies, and how you can activate and become conscious of that within you, within this body, within this human experience. It's a very, very, very powerful thing to recognize within yourself, because then you're a part of. You're not some, wounded child, thrown over because, you didn't get what you needed as a child. And so you're going to defend yourself and be angry and carry on the rest of your life. Anyone sound familiar? It certainly was familiar for me. I was the defended queen. I could do it with the best of everyone, And it served me well at a certain point, just like it serves every personality well at a certain point. It's not a mistake. But the love without an object, you begin to actually become conscious of, and then to begin to live in and as the great descent. Because the invisible divine energies, if you want to call it that, it's constantly flowing down into the crown and through the central channel and up the feet, and constantly circulating. The Chinese medicine people have a name for that. Whatever.
Microcosmic orbit.
Microcosmic orbit.
And if it goes into the legs, it's the macrocosmic orbit.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I call it the central channel. Right? And so there's every tradition sees the same thing. And I wasn't trained in any tradition, and when I was a medical intuitive for many years, I just saw it. I mean, wasn't coming from a particular structure or training. It's just the way it is. It's like, do you have a spine? Well, you have a central channel, right? And that central channel is that is before any division happens. It's before the chakras. It's before any kind of, you've got to deal with this and clear out this and open up this. I'm not putting all that down. It's very helpful. It's like medicine. But you are pure potential and energy and the divine and the earth's gift continuously. You don't have to deserve it. You don't have to make yourself available to it. It's what is. And so the divine is constantly pouring in to the crown chakra. That's why the crown chakra is so emphasized in certain traditions. Because when it's open, the 1,000-petal lotus, it then is consciously receiving the fullness of the divine as it enters. So you literally are this energetic instrument of the divine energy. That's what we are. And the only constriction is certain conditionings, both karmic and familial and ancestral and cultural, that sort of close off that free flow of the divine energy that's constantly coming in. But the palpable, and that's the one that I like to emphasize, because it is within you, that very palpable love without an object. It arises, and it's like a fountain, and it flows over, it goes above the crown. And it saturates and awakens and activates and purifies every cell within your body. And so, when you're sitting around and that you're bored with the conversation in whatever's happening. You know, you're at lunch and someone's talking about boring things. You know, you're above all of that. You know, why not just sit in this love without an object? You know, you're waiting in line for whatever. Why not open up to that? You're talking to someone and that person is in deep defense and they're attacking. Are you able to open to this that is the love without an object and see what happens? Someone is acting out in a way that you don't really think that they should act out. Is that possible? And I'm not saying that that's possible here 100% of the time, but it's more and more and more and more and more and more present. That's the unconditional love that as a personality and a spiritual personality that we have tried so hard to do. And of course, tried so hard to do is the problem. That's the very constriction that closes it all down. If you've ever had anybody who is into being very, very, very loving, you know, you just kind of want to go. You know, I mean, just, you know, it's like I don't know about you, maybe you wired up differently, but it's just like, yuck. You know, I was talking to the same woman that I was talking about the other night that had been with Simon, and she was saying it was all about, are you radiant? Are you radiant today? You know, because you weren't allowed to be anything but radiant. You know? Well, that's not what I'm pointing to. It's the internal essence of silence that arises within your system, your unique and human individuated system, and is constantly celebrating and renewing itself. It's love without an object. And all that is required is that you turn your attention to it instead of here or what's in front of your eyes. Those are the distractions. This is not wrong. It's just not the direction of love. The reflection of life, the relative life, that's not wrong. That's our play, that's our dance. But it's putting the attention here instead of the origin of it. Just like last night when I was reading, you know, those sutras, is you abide that self illuminates, not that is illuminated. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You come home to that self illuminates. And it does not belong to one more than another. That's the line. So this love that fulfills and nourishes and reveals and opens and includes and embraces and liberates and heals and moves you forward in life, that in your own way you ask, how can I be of benefit to all beings, myself included? To come to another, wanting them to fill that hole, is the greatest tragedy. And everyone does it until you know what's true.